No.
Okay, we're going.
So my name is Jim Gallegos, Diablo Numismatic Society. I'm a life member of this club, and I am a current member of the board. Very proud to be here tonight, and just very happy to share some information with you. The subject is wealth distribution, something or nothing. What does that mean? I want to just tell you a little bit about myself. When I was growing up, my mother would always, if she had something to say, she'd make it clear. And for example, if I left the lights on in the house, she'd come by and she'd say, who do you think we are? Related to PG&E? She shut the lights off. And then she'd look at me and she'd say, words to the wise. So I'm hoping that some of the things that I talk about tonight are words to the wise. I grew up working in my father's barber shop. He had a very, very busy business. I was little, and I was there every day after school and on Saturday. And when I was there cleaning up, Saturday when he was making his payroll, he used to pay me $2. But these were Morgan silver dollars. 2 Morgan silver dollars to a little kid. I can still remember distinctly having those Morgan silver dollars in my hand. I remember feeling the weight, looking at the portrait, and just being so glad, especially because I knew next Saturday I was going to get 2 more. That's how I started collecting coins, and I've collected all my life. I started acting as a dealer in 1987. Was at the Long Beach Convention Center and realized that there were some opportunities as a dealer. So I've got a table, and I still have that table to this day. I'm also associated with the Kagan family. The Kagan family is a long-standing company, and we'll talk about what they do. But first, I want to talk about this is the greatest hobby. When I go to the Santa Clara show, one of the things that Scott Griffin does, and I think it's great, he reminds us that this is the best hobby in the world, and I truly believe it. Very excited to be able to participate as a collector, and I've enjoyed it my entire life. When you become a collector, what happens to all of us is that as we move forward, we start developing some habits. And the habits are part of our topic tonight. As we start buying coins, as we start collecting coins, depending on how serious we are, our holdings can be quite large. So what we want to do is make sure that we follow the right habits to make certain that what we're doing maximizes our return. And we can call this collection management. And further, we can call it custodian responsibilities, because after all, we have great collections. I know many of you, and we've done some business, and we just traded ideas, and I know that you all have a good collection. And but the collection is in our hands momentarily, actually, because we're just custodians. And what we want to do is make certain that when we pass these items forward, that they're in the best condition as possible. So I want to talk about buying. Some of the things that we do when we assemble our collections is buying habits. How do we do it? What do we buy? How much do we spend? Who do we buy them from? Where do we go? All these areas of buying are going to affect the value of your collection someday. And some of the things that we know, and we've talked about it. Bruce Berman was here just at the last meeting, talked about grading coins. He was using examples of Buffalo nickels. And he did a great job pointing out how important it is to buy correctly. And it's important for you to learn how to grade coins. And I know all of you probably know a lot about it. I know this is not breaking news, but it is important to understand that when you're buying coins, there's a lot of different kinds of sellers, and not every seller knows everything about every coin. They just don't. Some sellers know more than others, but there's always a buying opportunity. I love going to the coin shows. Bill Green is here tonight. He has a great coin show, and I love going to his show because there's so much opportunity when we attend the shows. The dealers all have cases. You can walk through the show and see all the different varieties, all the different kinds of coins that are available to us. And when we're buying coins, we want to make sure that we take our want list, and if possible, your actual collection. Make sure that you're getting the right coin for your collection. Also, there's opportunity at these shows. So when you're looking for something and you start seeing the dealers that you know, there may be dealers that you don't know. Get to know these dealers because oftentimes they have things that you may not be aware of. One of the things that I do when I go to a coin show is I try to meet somebody new. I want to know what they think about certain things because they all have valuable opinions. Most of these dealers that we see have been doing it for a long time. You can always learn something. But even more than that, I always ask the question, which is, do you have anything that's not in the case? Did you bring any boxes with you? And many times they'll go like this and they'll pull out a box and they'll go, yeah, that's just some stuff. Well, one man's stuff is another man's treasure. And if you go through that box, oftentimes you'll find treasures in there. I've done it many, many times. I bought in the past, I have benefited from doing that, and I thought that I would share that with you. As we move through the collection habit, it gets to a point where we have so many coins that we start thinking about selling. So why do you sell and what do you do? When you sell coins, you want to make sure that you're prepared to sell it. And using the right guides for buying and for selling, whether it's the Red Book, whether it's a website that you can go to. A lot of the companies now have great websites that you can learn much information. And our cell phone, man, this little thing will tell you everything that you need to know immediately, including anything that's doubtful in your mind. So getting and establishing the right habit buying, the right habit selling, and making sure that you're really maximizing the opportunity to increase your collections. When we talk about selling, the big question is, when do I do it? As we continue to collect our coins, there is a point in time when we start distributing what we have. When you're buying, of course, it's receiving. So that's if you do a good job buying, you're going to have money coming in. The better buyer you are, the more chance or profit you'll make down the road. When you're a seller, that's when the money goes out, and you want to make sure goes out of your collection. When you do that, you want to make sure that you're dealing with the right and best opportunities. Some companies specialize in selling. Kagan's, for example, as you know, the local company that I'm associated with here in Tiburon, they have auctions around the country, and then there's other good companies. Heritage is a good company. Stax Bowers has a sale frequently, and there's the opportunities that you can see and participate in during the time that you're selling. Be prepared to do the best that you can for yourself. And if you're going to sell your coins, participate in that as much as you can, because they're your coins. You bought them. You're specializing in a particular series, and only you know the history of those coins. So you're going to be best able to convey that information to a potential buyer. And again, try to establish the right habits so when you do go through the process of buying and selling, you get the most out of it. And what I'm talking about here in this process is estate planning, because that's basically what we're doing. The sooner you begin planning for your estate, the better. In our hobby, because we're dealing with buying and selling valuable items, and some can be, I'm sure we've all experienced when we bought our most expensive coin. what a great experience that is. And the longer we collect, the more we do it. So the value of your collection really goes up. And if you take some time and you go through the items that you have, you'll see, you know, if you get a calculator, it goes up really, really fast. And as collectors, sometimes we don't think about that. But you want to protect those items and make sure that when it's time for you, take advantage of a great plan as they go down the road. Our friend David Davis, in our recent die break, released an article. It was an outstanding article. I'm sure that many of us have seen it, but David outlined in his article what he does to collect coins, how he captures the information, using a spreadsheet in his case, even identifying, you know, who's going to get it in the future. These are important questions, and as custodians, in order to maximize the distribution of the wealth that we have, the more information that we capture, the better plan that we have, the better habits that we have, is going to affect the bottom line. So, you know, wealth distribution, are you going to get something, or are you going to get nothing? Words to the wise. When we talk about our estates, one of the things that we want to think about is, how is it going to happen? What are we going to do? Excuse me. Somebody help me share these? Yes, start that. I want to share with you this idea of estate planning. You got to have a will, right? And it should be in writing. It doesn't have to be wills that aren't written can hold up. But what you want to do, in my opinion, is to avoid probate. If you can avoid probate, your estate is going to retain more of your wealth. The probate and the will go hand in hand. But if you have a will that's created correctly, you will have a less expensive and a quicker probate proceeding. That's a judicial proceeding. They follow the law, and in the brochure that they're passing out, when we look at the pages in the back, we talk about how to avoid probate. We talk about, there's a page there where there's an outline of every activity that's going to occur in probate if that judicial officer doesn't understand what you have or doesn't understand what the obligations may be. He's going to appoint somebody to figure it out, and he's going to charge your estate. So, you know, be sensitive to record keeping, be sensitive to trying to, you know, provide all the information that is necessary. The better job you do, the better your estate will be. But there's more. If you think about your estate and you can have the opportunity to avoid the probate, what do you do when that happens? One of the things that I would recommend that you look into, or if you have one already to look at it again, is creating a trust. The trust is going to provide a safeguard for everything that you put in that trust, which, you know, in many cases is 100% of what you own, including your collection. This feature is a outstanding way to save wealth in your family, and it's easy to do. It does require that you deal with somebody who knows what they're doing, so whether you draw a will or whether you draw a trust, I recommend seeing a good attorney, somebody who's capable of doing it. But here's the good news on that. When I was younger, you know, in my first trust experience, it was expensive because the trust was probably, you know, I remember getting the first trust, it was like, you know, 2.5, 3 inches thick. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't understand it. But things have changed, and now, probably due to the computer technology that we all have and enjoy, trusts can be written really well and effective, and it's not expensive to do. And when you compare having no trust, when you compare to having to go through probate, it's a bargain. So if you don't have one, you might look into it. It may not be for everybody, but certainly having a good record of all your purchases is definitely something that is important. Also, when you are in that mode of moving your collection, some of the companies that are in the business that specialize in helping the liquidation, there are venues, better venues than others. Some sales are better than others. Some opportunities are better than others. So these are things that you would want to take advantage of. And also, another thing I want to share with you tonight is the idea of preserving your wealth. And one thing that I would recommend is having a life insurance policy. You know, when I was younger and people would say the word life insurance, oh God, it just was so, I didn't like the feeling. It was heavy. I didn't understand it. And I didn't really realize how that life insurance policy could work. But the fact of the matter is that a life insurance policy is one of the few areas where all taxes are not assessed on what you have. So if, for example, you buy a life insurance policy, it has a death benefit and it has a living benefit. The death benefit is going to go to somebody that you select, a beneficiary, it can be a family member, and when that person receives that check from that insurance company, it's going to be tax-free. Pretty nice benefit. But, you know, you're gone, it may not matter, I don't really know. But what does matter are the living benefits, and the living benefits for your family and for yourself are huge, because once you have an established policy, you can use it for a lot of different reasons by taking money out or putting money back in tax-free. So through your life, if you put money in this savings program, the federal government gives every U.S. citizen the ability to save money and not tax it. The after-tax dollars that you use to buy it, the accrual on the interest that accrues the profit for you, when you pull that money out, you can pull it in and out as many times as you want, there's no tax on it. Pretty nice. Some people have different policies, or maybe more than one or two, and they use them perhaps to help them with their coin collection. So all of these things, you know, becoming a collector, becoming interested in the hobby, helping people understand what perhaps they may not know, or sharing information with people, or asking others when you need information. This coin club is the perfect example. Look at the group of people here tonight, all just, you know, sharing their time with us, and it's just it's a real pleasure for me to be able to be here and to share these ideas. All the members in the club and many other people are available for any questions or for anything that you might have. So, I just have this question. How many collectors are here? Raise your hand. Oh, everybody is. I knew that was going to happen. So thank you for coming. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them if I can. I don't know.
Since you deal on the national level with the great auction houses, because you know them, how important are written records? Because we know sometimes items, especially specs and stuff, you know, they formerly this auction, formerly this auction, formerly this, they could trace the coin back. But some of us just have common things, silver dollars, or 2.5 pesos, $2.5. How important is for us to document that for a potential seller after we go saying, I bought it in 1965 from Don Kagan or something like that? Or is it just the mega stuff that needs the things? Or is it everything?
That's a good question, and it really depends on the individual. It depends on the basis that we're talking about. It depends on the size of the estate, the values. This is the kind of question that could be most correctly answered if we knew what the numbers were. If the numbers are little, you know, I guess it's subjective. I'm a believer in trying to keep the best records possible. I think that there's an advantage for a family to do so. So my perspective would be to keep all the records you have, disclose it when it's needed, and take advantage of whatever is existing.
Nicholas, right here.
Yes, sir.
Going back on the wills and on the, on the wills and the trust, I ran into a person that their mom or dad had passed away. They had a trust, and they told me this horror story that the trust wasn't enough to have people go after the will. In other words, there's people out there that see who's died, you know, target people see that they just have a trust. He was saying that you have to go beyond a trust, like an LLC,
Limited liability corporation.
Yeah, right.
That's a different organization completely.
No, and I understand that, but this is what they were telling me, and I'm like, I used to think if you have a will or a trust, a living trust, then you're pretty safe, and nobody can hijack it. How safe are you, and can people hijack it?
So hijacking
We can't hear it back there. Can you summarize what you're saying?
Repeat the question.
Okay, so the question is this. In our friend's experience, he's being aware of the hijacking of information or information about someone who has a will, someone who has a trust, someone who may have a kind of corporation. And the question is, if you have a will or a trust, which of those, or are they both relatively safe? Remember that a will, when you have a will, the written document, it's always going to be followed by probate. If you have a trust, that's not going to happen. Now, in today's technological frenzy of information, how safe are they? I think that if, you know, could we all be subject to something? I suppose that would be true. But regarding the taxation issue only, it's less expensive if you have a trust than if you have a will.
I was more concerned about outside people hijacking that trust. According to this person, and I don't
Good
know.
question. I don't really know the answer. I guess that's something worth looking into.
Okay, let's take one more question. Manuel had his hand
Yeah,
up.
I was curious, how does an individual that really isn't that knowledgeable about something that's valuable, if he has something that would be worth taking to an auction?
That's a great question. I'm asked that question almost every day. I don't know exactly what it is. I don't know what the value is. So what we try to do is we try to do some pre-examination research. We try to find out the kind of item, the age of the item, the history across the block on an item. We try to identify everything that we can to do a preliminary valuation. Now, sometimes the preliminary evaluation will show quickly that it's not really valuable, it's a common item, it's really not worth the expense to go through that process. On the other hand, there are items that will come up, and those items with the proper examination it can be determined that they are in fact very desirable, very saleable, and large potential. But somebody has got to look at it. In the organization that I'm associated with, we encourage people to bring things to us at shows, bring things to us through the mail. We will pay shipping, we will pay for the insurance to make sure that it's safeguarded. We work by appointment in our office in Tiburon, and we certainly can work by appointment in a individual's home or office, so it's safe. But it's the beginning, that's the beginning step that is really necessary to begin determining the value of your estate. If you can be aware of the future possibilities as a buyer, aware of it as a seller, aware of it as an estate planner for your family, aware of it when you look at wills or trusts, and finally, taking advantage of some of the tax-free opportunities like a life insurance policy. The life insurance policy is something that, to consider.
We have to move along here. A half hour, 35 minutes on this topic cannot complete all the areas that you have to investigate. This is kind of like our other programs. It gives you an insight into what you need to know if you want to pursue it. And his handout he's prepared is extremely valuable. Jimmy's here every meeting that he can't be, once a month unless he's traveling for Kagan's.
These are some examples of what Kagan's does in the marketplace for evaluations. There's a pile here. Feel free to take them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Thank you, Jimmy. Okay, next month we do have elections for our society. We have some standing nominations. We have a nomination for secretary. Dave's going to run again. We have a nomination for treasurer, Charlie Ludwig. Nomination for vice president, which is Kyle. Nomination for board at-large positions, Jimmy Gallegos and Brad Lee. And then myself, I was nominated to run this thing. So we'll see how it all works out. We do have a nomination on the table. Dave, you want to stand up, please?
Excuse me, I got a cold, which is why I didn't bake any goodies. Okay, I'd like to nominate Neil Robertson for our board member.
Back there, Neil, stand up.
Hey, Neil. Do you accept?
Oh, that's great.
Thank you, Neil. Okay, you sit down. Did I leave anybody out? Geez, I'm not brain dead. Great. Okay, so elections next month. Be here or be square. And why don't we now take a 15-minute break and we'll reconvene. Oh, wait, announcements. That's right, I had announcements on the agenda. Bill Green, you have an announcement? Here it comes. We always hear from Bill Green. I think he has another coin show coming up.
Thank you, Bob. So yeah, I've got a coin show at the Concord Clarion on the 4th and 5th of January. I'm going to leave some flyers up here with all the information you need to know. I can tell you that the drawing prizes for this the show in January will be Mercury Head Times. They're all full band. Third prize will be 1 coin, second prize 2, first prize 3 coins. We're also going to do a coin club member only drawing. So when you come to the show, fill out a registration card, make a note on the card that you're a club member. My wife handles registration, but she sometimes forgets to ask or remind people. So please remember when you fill out the card to indicate your club affiliation. This is the prize, a Morgan silver dollar. Pretty nice one too.
When's the show?
The 4th and 5th of January. That's a Friday and a Saturday.
That's our show here.
Yeah, and we'll have all the information up here if you want to get all the specific details.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you. Any other announcements, Mike?
As some of you know, we've lost in the past several months several major people in the hobby. Myself, Don Hill, Mike Stanley, Fred Vandenhack, and I just slipped, Lloyd Chan attended the services for Lee H. Gong, who's an internationally known in error coins. Many of you didn't know him, but he must have taught a lot of people because I wrote a eulogy for him that's now published in Numismatic News. It'll be also in the California Numismatist. It was in the San Jose Coto Janeiro, which is the newsletter of San Jose Coin Club, the Vallejo newsletter, and it was published. I just found out today in the Calgary Numismatic Society's newsletter in Alberta, because when Lee was up there many years ago, he touched their heart. But however, we lost somebody else very close, Nancy Jo Stanley, Mike's wife here. Many of you don't know how important she was to this club back in the days before the greatness. I don't know how many dinners we've had at your house, how many board meetings she hosted, how she even allowed me to sleep on the couch one night because we had to get up in the morning to go to coin shop, and so forth. And I think the club should do something for Steamer. I made a letter that's going to be, Dave Harper is going to publish it, and if you'd like to read it, it'll be published and taken and pat a card. But it's my tribute to Nancy, to Lee, and to other people I've known in this hobby, and as Carl Manthei said, paved the way for us to be here today. So take one and read it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. How that announcement goes hand in hand with our program tonight, estate planning, life insurance, and all the rest of it, hand in hand. Well, any other announcements?
Yes.
Dave?
We need to sell more tickets.
Okay. All right, so more tickets for the drawing. I'll be in there for 20. Also, don't forget, dues are now payable. Rest of the year, if you're a new member, you get the rest of this year and all of next year for your 15 or your 25 if it's sale mail. Also, the Christmas party in December. Go to our website. All the info is on the website. Okay? And let's take a 15-minute break. Oh, wait. Gene Barry, I'm sorry. Gene.
Before we do that, two members of this coin club that were just mentioned, both Lee Gong and Nancy, I'd like us to do a moment of silence for them, please.
Add on James Laird too.
And James Laird too.
Yes. Moment of silence.
Okay, thank you, Gene. We are all mortal creatures. Okay, let's take a 15-minute break.
About the camera. Turn it off. If you don't,
You just close that.
thank you.